Yo, 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 what is going on, YouTube? This is Josh over here at American AF Dumpster Rentals in Dallas. What's up? What's up? We have a new look today because I am at home. I am back home. I did not feel like, I don't know, just did not feel like being at the shop. It's been super cold. It's been brutally cold here in Texas. For all you northerners out there, whatever, I don't care. Y'all can say how cold it is up where you're at. It is freezing cold here. Today it was, I think it was around 16, 17 degrees, but with a wind chill. That's what was the brutal part. The wind chill in some sections, we were like 10 below. And it was cold and very, very windy. So spent a lot of time outside. Actually got my first frozen dumpsters today. I actually got three of them. So I was blessed with a whole bunch of them all at one time, which is awesome. So for those of you guys that deal with frozen dumpsters up north, I am not jealous whatsoever. I am sorry for you guys. I feel for you. I don't ever want to do that again. We got a lot of frozen dumpsters today. So and then since I'm on a different computer, my whole setup is completely weird, and I can't even do my intro for you guys. So it is what it is, guys. I've got a good one for you today, though. We've got a good one. I have, normally, um, I just talk about weekly updates or something like that, and every now and then I'll have a guest. I did have somebody reach out to me a few weeks ago, probably a month or two ago now, and told me kind of his story a little bit as to what he went through when he was involved in an accident. And I'm not going to go into it too much, but we want you guys to just kind of listen to his story, and he's going to share his journey, his story, his company, as well as what happened and the aftermath. That's what's important. Is what happened afterwards. How did he handle it? How did his business? What happened to his business? Insurance issues, all that stuff. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I have no mic issues, no video issues. If we're all good, please in the comments below say we're all good. Give me a big thumbs up. Share this video because we want everybody to see this. This is going to be a good one. Ooh, we got a couple. Holy moly, that's a big old. Why is that way up there? We got Rhino Solutions. What's up, man? We got Dylan in here on his business. Let's see. We'll go about here on his business. YouTube. I'm moving this around because I wasn't prepared for this. What's up, Rhino? What's up, Dylan, man? Thumbnail looks bad. Heck of an impact to bend a frame like that. Yeah, yeah. I spent some time on a thumbnail today, so we're gonna go through it. Go through a couple comments real quick. Brian, what's up, man? Yo, yo, yo. Taylor, what's up? Embrace it. No, I'm not embracing it. I moved here from Wisconsin for a reason, and I do not want to ever go back. It's almost 2 decades now I've been down in Texas, and I consider myself a true Texan because I do not want to go back at all. What up, Orlando Pressure Washer? What's up, my man? Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. David Rollo. There we go. What's
How
up,
you doing?
David?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Josh.
How are you, man?
Good, good. Glad to we were able to connect and get on and have a discussion about what you do when the shit hits the fan and
Quite
you
literally.
get and what are some of the steps that what folks should think about when something like that happens.
Well,
And I
let's
had
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I put some thought into it, but this really highlighted it. I don't know if you want to show the picture to start, or maybe we
Yep, that's
start there. Just
exactly what I was going to do. There we go, right there. Now walk us through. That is a kind of what Dylan said. That is a pretty major accident. Looks like obviously
Yep.
you've definitely got some frame damage. This was a GM. What did we say earlier? A GMC
The
Chevy.
GMC 6500. I was traveling 50 miles an hour and I was going around a corner to the left with a dumpster on the back. Luckily, it wasn't loaded. The woman who struck me lost consciousness due to low sugar. And I veered off the road as she hit my left front wheel, which came up into the cab. The truck stopped almost instantly because the frame dug into the road. The dumpster crushed the cab onto me, flew off, broke the cables. So, full on, winch cable that's a 5/8 or not 5/8. I guess it's half-inch cable snapped. So the impact was severe. I had I broke ribs. I had whiplash. I had a concussion. Um, they ended up using the jaws of life to get me out.
Mm,
But the impact the estimate was around taking like 10 G's. I went from 50 miles an hour to 0 in 5 feet, which will kill
unbelievable.
you. So, and she luckily, thank God, I veered when I veered off, and she only hit my wheel. If I'd hit her head on, because as we were coming along, instead of her turning, she went straight into me. I had veered off, and luckily there was a lot of people who saw me veer off into the grass or getting off the road. Uh, but she was able to walk away with no injuries.
Mm.
So the main thrust of the incident was when the wheels came off, the front end came apart, is when the real impact started. So I was telling Josh before, luckily I had been thinking about it and I had bought a second truck.
Well, before
You know,
before we get too deep into it, let's start a
yeah,
let's go back just a little bit. So
yeah, go ahead.
introduce let me know a little bit about you, your company, where you're from,
Yep,
and why you're in the dumpster industry, I guess.
sure, sure. So I'm from actually originally upstate New York, from Poughkeepsie. I moved down to Atlanta uh, 25 years ago. I had some businesses in New York, some health clubs and powder coating and some other things. And then I got into IT for about 25 years. Uh, was pretty successful at it. As took a company public. I sold one to Equifax. Um, but about during the pandemic, my wife had a heart attack, and one of my sons was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. Praise God, he doesn't have it, and praise God, my wife's recovered. Uh, but I said, what can I do where I don't have to ever get on a plane? There's a great market for it. And especially in the South where we have so many Northerners, like people from Wisconsin moving down here, that kind of thing. So we have a constant flow of business. And I said, I think this is kind of falls into the category of and I don't want to say anything's recession proof, but has a lot of room for growth, uh, has a lot of potential. And I had been involved in large scale rentals before, in IT infrastructure, renting, huge replications of data centers and stuff like that for people. And I love the rental business, so I wanted to get back into it. And as far as being able to play on scale, I thought this was a good way to go.
Gotcha.
So my company I'd only been operating since February of 2024 fully. This happened on October 29th. I run just 11 dumpsters right now. Things have been going great. I was planning on buying more dumpsters. I had just bought a second truck, more as a way in case something ever happened. And as I said earlier, I thought something happening would be, a bad transmission or, my bed broke or something, but nothing on this scale where I would have to go from, uh, how do you survive as a solopreneur to get back going as I did in less than a week? And how do you deal with that? And I'm still fighting with the insurance companies to get the money that I feel this truck is worth, plus lost time and other things. And it's going to be a battle for a while. We're not even close on closing that gap.
Man. So so you're driving down the road, regular work day. You're going to deliver
Yep.
a dumpster, I suppose, or you just dumped, or what?
No, I just on my way to deliver one. And again, I think one of the key lessons here is, make friends with the people around you. Because as I was going and as I was driving along having a good day, when this happened, a lot of things are emotional. Like, how do I get a hold of my other dumpsters? What do I do with this one laying on the side of the road? And I actually I had my wife actually showed up before they had me, before they used the jaws of life to get me out. And she had, made some phone calls to people and said, can somebody come get this thing? So the truck was hauled away. There was a police investigation, but one of my actually the gentleman who owned the landfill, the C&D landfill near here, had a roll-off truck, and before I was at the hospital, that dumpster was gone. And it's just part of that of, I hear, we talk about it, but do we really know the people around us in the business? Do we really have somebody we could call if something goes bad?
Right.
And have talk to the guys that you just see every day at the landfill or see every day in the industry. And I think this forum is a great way to expand that. So I was lucky enough to have done enough of that people came to my rescue, for lack of a better term.
So, seatbelt.
Oh yeah, seatbelt, no airbags. So the seatbelt, if you're not wearing one, you're out of your mind. If I didn't have one on, this I would have been dead. There's no doubt about it.
No
I
scratches.
mean,
No cuts. No broken bones.
no. So I broke ribs. I had full whiplash, a concussion. It was a tremendous hit, and I've been in some. I was an extreme sports guy. I've done all that stuff. Broken half the bones of my body. Broken my back before. Fractured my skull. This is the hardest hit I've ever taken by far. This was a different league. I didn't know you could be this hurt. Hurt that badly.
Hmm.
So, like, most of my body was bruised afterwards.
And this is a tank. I mean, this is an older truck. I mean, there's nothing plastic
Oh yeah,
about this truck.
no. This when you pull up next to it in this truck, when you pull up next to an 18-wheeler, you looked eye to eye. This is not a little truck. This is full on. This is it's not as big as like a Peterbilt, but it's a big heavy duty truck.
So walk us
And
through a
I'm
little
running.
bit. So you get in an accident, you go to the hospital. What's day 2 look like? I mean, are you recovering? Are you already on making phone calls trying to figure out the schedule? What are we doing?
Yeah, so I was sent home because it's called closed rib fractures. They can't do anything for it. They can't do anything for whiplash, concussion. They can't do anything. I was home, and the other truck I had purchased, and I had been lucky enough to purchase a similar truck to this on purpose, that I got a great deal on, but I'd never put a dumpster on it. I barely run the thing. I knew some of the hydraulics leaked. So 2 days later, I was underneath that truck changing the transmission brake, and I mean, I'm in no reason I should have been doing it. I mean, I shouldn't have been doing it. I changed the transmission brake, did some other work. About 3 or 4 days later, I went to the landfill, and I called the next morning and I said, "Hey, Iris, I didn't get a ticket from you yesterday." And she said, "Dave, you came in, you drove around, and you drove away."
Mm.
So I still had enough of a brain injury that I shouldn't have been out cruising around. And I think that's probably a lesson that I should have taken a little more to heart. I should have taken a little more time to recover, but I I didn't feel like I had that option. I did get friends to help me move some other stuff around. But like all of us, if we're entrepreneurs, we're going to be driving, we're going to be doing something. And I couldn't sit still. But I think that it was, in retrospect, foolish on my part, because if I'd had another accident with whiplash or the head injury already, if I'd driven into somebody, it would have been 100% my fault. It was foolish, and I did it, but I probably shouldn't have. And again, I think the one thing that I can't express enough is I have friends in the industry, but make a plan, because they may need you, you may need them.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to the guys around you. Maybe they're not your direct competitor who's in your same 10-mile radius, but get to know other guys that are 20 miles away, or whatever it takes, so that you say to him, and this one young guy, the first guy I ever really met in the industry, I had said to him for our first lunch, I said, "Look, I'll get a truck that can haul your stuff. I know, as well, in case anything ever happens." That was kind of an impassing conversation a year before this happened.
Mm.
And pretty fortuitous to be able to say it later on. Yeah, I wish glad I've had some of these conversations with people.
Sure.
But I think it's a piece that we forget, because we plan for what we're going to do. Oh, maybe my truck will be out for a week, but what happens when you're out for a week or two? How do you deal with it? Put some thought into that. Like, what? Write it down. Who should your wife call? Who should, what do you do? What are the action steps? And it probably takes one sheet of paper. It's really simple. If X happens, if you're in an accident, your truck's not going to run, or you have to go to the hospital, who should the people around you call? Okay, who are you going to pull your dumpsters back? Are you going to turn off your advertising? Are you going to keep going? What are the steps? And there's probably a bit of a triage on that of how far you should go, but at least have thought through it so that the first time you really put any thought into it, it's not while you're, in the ambulance.
Oh, I agree 100%. Like, I mean, I haven't even thought of that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. Like, it's something that I need to do myself, as because I've got people that I can call, but if I'm unable to make those phone calls, then what? You know what I'm saying? It's an eye opener for sure for even myself. To I've been in plenty of businesses before, and it's always been me. You know what I'm saying? But you're 100% right. Let's talk a little bit about the um, dealing with the insurance. I guess I talked a little bit on the channel last week about insurance and stuff like that. This was not this was not an at fault accident on your end, correct?
Yeah, no, she was, and God, God bless her. She was unconscious. She had lost consciousness, hit me. I had no fault. They did a complete investigation, shut the roads down, measured everything. This was 100% her fault. But there's two issues there. This being an older truck, and I paid cash for everything, so I didn't have collision on it. It's part of the reason I bought a second truck, and that actually was probably a mistake. Even though I probably should have had a $5,000 or $10,000 deductible collision plan, even though I probably would have exceeded the value, almost the value of the truck in some ways, because my insurance company won't fight for me. They've been great. They said, here's what you could do. But without that policy, you have a real issue. And I'm fighting with the Hartford right now, and they're terrible. They're comparing this truck to a flatbed truck with 500,000 miles on it that has rust holes in it. And that's my fight. So of how do I get them to value something that was a functional working truck, had 140,000 miles on it, was in great condition, ran perfectly, and was a roll-off truck that I made my living off of.
Well, you got to give them comparables. I mean, they're going to fight you 100% because they know it's just you, and they've got all the time
Yep.
in the world
Yep.
to delay. But I've been in the same boat with a Sprinter limo that wasn't in an accident. The Sprinter was brand new. I mean, honestly, I think it was on its second run ever, brand spanking new, and they were trying to compare it to Amazon sprinters, like cargo
Oh
van sprinters. I paid
yeah.
$150,000 for that sprinter, and they were trying to tell me it was worth 75. And I went back and
Exactly.
forth, and I was looking. When I emailed you this morning, I went back and looked. Back in 2020, when was it, 2021 or something like that, is when that accident happened. And it took 8 months from the date of the accident, so it was October, actually right around the same time,
Yeah.
October. And I don't think we settled until end of June or middle of June. It took all that time to finally get from the accident to, because they won't do anything until actually the payments are made, right? Until fault is found, and then they actually pay for the repairs, and repairs are completely done and over with. Then once
Yep.
that's closed, then they look at diminished value and or loss of revenue and all that other stuff. So, but it's a good thing. It's not your it's a good thing, obviously you're not at fault, because then you're only dealing with your own insurance. That's a good thing in your favor. Second thing is, what are her limits though? Does she have, is it like 25, 50, or is it the 100, 200? Do they tell you?
And sadly, in South Carolina, and the reason I'm not suing the woman because she had a 25-25 policy. 25,000 personal injury, 25,000 for vehicle accident, and the 50 is the if there's 2 people or 4 people in the car, they would cover their physical injuries. Very modest, means. I have no desire to go after somebody who's 76 years old and
Mm.
living in a little tiny, rundown house. So I made the choice that I'm not, people say you should sue her. No, that's not me. You know, I can absorb this, and I bought this truck as a way to learn the business before I made a bigger investment. But I think, again, in retrospect, I had other people's trust in their businesses on the line with me. Guys are building houses, people are doing projects, and I cannot let them down. So having a way to work around that, and whether it's the insurance policy stepping in, I don't know how Texas works. Is Texas a no fault state or is it a fault state?
I believe
So
it's.
like
Go ahead.
New York is a no fault state. Doesn't matter who hits you. There's nobody's at fault.
No, it's a fault state. So your
Okay.
accident here, and that's why I asked about your limits, because your accident here obviously limits for the people watching. As far as I know, it limits your what you can collect 100% to $25,000, including your
From her.
medical
Yeah.
fees from her
Yeah.
insurance, including her medical
Yeah.
fees and all that stuff. Now, if you had a that's where you're underinsured or no insured, underinsured, no insurance policy would kick in. Is
Yeah.
where if you meet those limits of 25,000, then your underinsured policy would kick in and you can collect whatever is left over on your underinsured.
So for my physical injuries, I had the underinsured motorist policy. For the truck, because I didn't have collision, it doesn't matter. If I'd had it, because they will not cover it, even though her policy wouldn't cover it. There's not enough there to uh, because I didn't not enough there, but because I didn't have a collision policy, they won't step in and help at all.
Now,
Which
in what
is
order are
just
they? In what order are they applying that? Are they applying the physical or the injuries first before the truck?
it's a great question. They actually have to deal with those separately. They can't have the physical injuries or the truck being bound together. They actually have to deal with those separately.
Okay, but the $25,000
So,
policy still applies regardless of which one it's going
so,
to,
so
whether
they're
it's going to
separate.
injuries or whether it's going to your truck.
Yeah, no, they're actually separate. So 25 for the truck and 25 for physical
Mm,
and for medical. They're
property and
not.
physical.
Yeah, so they would, if my injuries were, 50,000 and the truck was, they'd only cover to 25, and if the truck was 12, they'd only cover to 12 or whatever. That they're not bound together in any way.
Gotcha,
They
gotcha,
wouldn't
gotcha, gotcha.
take money from the truck and apply it to the physical injuries.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
So,
That's where I was because again, I've been in major accidents. The Sprinter, the one I'm talking about in particular, was a big one. Had lots of passengers inside. It was actually like a
yep.
5-car accident. We were the
Oh, geez.
third in that chain, but that was all covered by the other people's insurance, so I didn't have to worry about. Luckily, everybody was good. Just a couple broken wrists here and there, nothing big. Um,
Yeah.
but very very interesting. This is why we can't skimp on insurance too. A lot of guys always want to try to get the lowest policy possible to try and save money on that monthly rev or that monthly payment. But it's important to have really good insurance at the end of the day because, and it's important to be truthful on what your truck is worth. Because let's say I don't know what your truck is worth, but let's say you claim to your own insurance and you did have comp and collision. You said, "Oh, the truck's only worth 20 grand because I want to save a bunch on my policy." Well, if that truck is worth 50 grand and you get in an accident, guess how much they're going to pay you? They're not going to pay you the
Mm-hmm.
50 grand. They're going to pay you 20 grand. I screwed myself over on one of mine, and I learned that the hard way because I had under claimed how much it was worth, thinking I was going to save a little bit of money. And when it was totaled out, I lost out because they said, "Well, your truck was actually, or your limo was actually worth this, but we're not going to pay you that. We're only going to pay you what you claimed it was worth and you paid for." Um,
That's a
so that sucks too. Um, What else did you take away from this though? I mean, as far as
So,
insurance is really big for these guys, for a lot of for all of us.
and I think I can cover one piece on there, Josh, is you know why I didn't have collision in park? Because I'm 59. I've been driving since I was 16. I'd never had a real accident. It never occurred to me, and this is one of the things I think is got to be a huge takeaway. It's called insurance for a reason, and
Mm,
it never occurred to me that I would have an accident like this. I just, it just never, I never thought it would actually happen. And I guess that's foolish, but in retrospect, now I'm insuring everything. I'm insuring us on this can of LaCroix right here.
right.
So, I mean, there's no. I mean, it was just a bad move, and I actually hired a consultant to help me with some of this, the claim, and he was the one who really lit into me. And he'd been his whole business is just consulting around. You're in an accident. The problem is your truck is really be valued here. They're offering you this. How do you close that gap? But he said the biggest flaw I have is that underinsured or non-insured, whatever those values are, that's going to hinder you the most.
What talk to me a little bit about your medical bills. What I mean, without getting too personal, please. I
Yeah.
don't mean to pry, but what are we talking about as far as, I mean, is it a lot? Are we talking?
So it's to give you an idea, just my they couldn't believe I wasn't more injured, so they did a head to toe CAT scan. They literally did four doctors had to read it, except for my, covered everything. A CAT scan like that alone is 20 grand.
Hmm.
But one thing everybody should know is if you don't have your medical pay for it first, they have what's called a negotiated rate. So that $20,000 CAT scan was actually, if anybody on this call had to pay for it themselves, 20 grand. The negotiated rate for them was 8. So when you go through that, and it ate up most of that, between the different things, the different doctors and stuff I had to go through, I said, screw it to physical therapy. I'm not going to that. But it came out to be, there was really no money there. But it's just, understand that if when it does happen, if you don't have an underinsured policy, realize that those negotiated rates, you want your insurance company, your health insurance company to pay those bills first
Mm-hmm.
so that you get that rate instead of the other.
Mm. Man, it's like you said earlier. It's always never going to happen to me. You know what I'm saying? Until it does. It's always
Yep.
that's just the other guy, and until you're
Yep.
that guy. Um,
Yep.
it's amazing that you're able to walk out of this and talk to us about it. It looks horrific. I'm sure it felt and was a horrific time. How have you bounced back? I mean, are you back 100%? Are you obviously you had a backup truck, which is great, but
Yep.
talk to us a little bit about
It
that.
it it took me about 6 weeks to really be able to work fully again. I mean, I had trouble getting out of bed, and I'm a relatively fit guy. Was doing triathlons not that long ago, but this I couldn't get out of bed. I mean,
Mm,
I have never really had that. And to give you an idea, I finished a Xterra triathlon where I separated my shoulder partway through it and still did finish the biking and the run. And this, I could literally couldn't get out of bed for 6. Not I could get out, but I could only work for a couple hours a day, and that's that other piece. So it took me a good, like 6 weeks, and then I had shut off my advertising because I could not fully take on new business during that period. So again, that's a big loss of income. I have since turned everything back on, really started to run well. And one note before this, so we took a big hit before this because we were fully in the middle of Hurricane Helene. And so we lost a couple of weeks of work before that,
mm,
where everything, we couldn't leave our area here for about a week. So, but now things are all ramped back up. I had to have some real work done on that truck in the last 2 weeks. They had to replace it's a reeving system, which if you don't know has four hydraulic cylinders. Two had to be replaced. We had replaced a brake caliper, some transmission lines. So the truck was out of commission for about 10 days. But other than that, most of my clients, all my clients that I know of have stuck with me. All of my, recurring business is still there. And I deal a lot at the residential level, again, to, kind of learn and work the business. And that, because of my marketing background, has continued to be strong. So I did lose quite a bit, but it also gave me time to think about what I needed to do, focus on what could be done. And sometimes those breaks you have to take advantage of and not just to go, oh, poor me. Oh, this sucks. Yeah, well, take that time and make it to take advantage of it. But sometimes they're a gift. You think of something that you wouldn't have if you're still just driving to the landfill every day.
Right. Right.
So
Unbelievable.
it's
Let me go through a couple comments here, guys. If you guys have any questions for David, put it in the comments below. Any like to see what we got. Yo, Ryan, local waste. He's a from Florida. I'm sure he's gonna mention that somewhere really soon about how nice his weather is. Oh, we talked about this already. So, and again, you're in South Carolina, David.
Yeah, I'm in the upstate of South Carolina, so closer to North Carolina and Georgia.
Gotcha.
So about yeah.
What's the weather been like
So
over there? You got any snow?
we had some flurries today.
Okay, we
You
did
know,
too.
we're not 16. That's pretty cold for Texas.
Yeah, yeah, we had actually flurries. I called it the snowmageddon of 2025. It was, but we will rebuild, right? You see all those memes all the time. See, Ryan here says, "Where the heat pours like
Yeah,
hot coffee." Always has got to rub it in, Mister Ryan.
yeah. No, I love it.
Anna Lee, what's going on, everyone? Hope the week is going good for you. Also dealing with a new Rhino logo, love it. Let's see here. Ryan couldn't run fast enough. Last Thursday, I got an emergency call for a truck rollover, hauled 40,000 pounds and three dumpsters to the landfill, and it was the low teens out. One big chunk came flying out of the bin. That's crazy. Um,
Oh man.
last year, I did. Last year, I believe I did. Or last year, there was a fellow operator in Waco who had gotten who was involved in an accident. He flipped his truck over. He had a hook lift truck, flipped it over. So went over there for a full day and ran dumpsters for him. This was a day after his accident, and he was when you were talking about running around with a concussion and all that stuff. He was out there, and I'll tell you, I mean, love the dude to death, but he should not have been out there either. He was not in his right mind and at all. And you reminded me of exactly what I saw him, and actually. Um, he was driving and he shouldn't have been, and not to put his stuff out there, but he got involved in some other issues that day as well because he was should have been at home. Um, so we've got to really learn to just you know let go a little bit sometimes when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, and you have to take care of yourself, right? That I think to your point is all it that you think you're messed up after this accident, but if you're in that shape, you can make it worse. And 2 days isn't gonna if your business dies in 2 days, you're in trouble.
Yep, yep, 100%. What's going on, WC Reynolds? Appreciate you being here. Dylan is at home instead of at the gym, just going through. Hope all is well. Hello from Freedom Dumpsters out of Virginia. Ryan says, whatever. Said his bones started to freeze. Let's see if there's any questions here. Rhino says, who wants to deal with local competition? Uh, Not Ryan, sorry, Rhino. Dylan says, who wants to deal with local competition when you're talking about calling your competitors local guys? Obviously, he's joking around. We work together. A bunch of us do around here, but we've talked about that on the channel several times. I think last week we were talking about that, and somebody in Ohio, I believe, put a post out and said, "Hey, let's meet together for lunch." We meet, once a month here locally with local guys, just talking trash. And to your point exactly about how that you never know when you might give them a call. We've used each other in our own network numerous times. Um,
Yep.
so, so tell me a little bit about that truck. It looks like a little shorter. How big is was your dumpster that you have back there? Is that like a 10 yard or?
So that was a 10 yard that was on there. I only run 10 and 15s
Okay,
right now. So
gotcha.
this is 10. This is that was uh, and the bet on that I think is 13 or 14 feet, if I recall. I can't remember exactly,
Before the
but I think
accident,
that's
after the
about
accident, it looks like it shortened a couple feet. Yeah,
10.
yeah. I mean, we could joke
And
about it now,
that's
right? You could joke about it now. It's just,
yeah, that's because it was in the front seat with me.
oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, yeah. And again, when the dumpster crushed the cab, you don't. You, again, I never would have thought of that happening.
Hmm.
And when the cable breaks, it's a solid hit.
Yeah. So going back to insurance real quick, I talked last week about a little bit about diminished value for like the newer trucks, but with your loss of revenue, are you able to claim that on their insurance, or because their limits were already exceeded, there's no way to get loss of
There's
revenue,
no
right?
recovery. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no recovery for lost revenue. And again, that's just it's a nature decision. This truck was I had almost bought a much newer hook lift truck, but said, let me, I'd been through enough businesses to know I needed to learn a bit about what. How many times have I started a company and then bought equipment and then said, I wish I bought something else,
Hmm.
within a year. And so this time I decided to buy something to learn it in advance and then say, oh, okay, what do I actually want? And what would I buy again if and I think that revenue while learning, what a lot of people just call it minimum viable product. We were talking about a prototype. This is a minimum viable product. You get a handful of dumpsters, you get a truck, go see what the market is. And again, I think we're talking about who wants to deal with your competition, and I think I used to hear that a lot in different businesses, but I think all these markets are bigger than we think.
Hmm.
We think in a limited way on what we could do in that market, and I think if we opened up, we realized that there's more business around than we can handle.
Right. Right. For sure. And not to, at least here in Texas. I don't know about you, but and not and again, not to go back to why, or your policy coverages, but um, if and my understanding is, if you would have had the underinsured policy, then you would have been able to claim loss of revenue on your own. Your underinsured would possibly cover um, loss of revenue.
So I don't think my policy covers that, but I will look. I hadn't looked at that from a loss of revenue for the underinsured piece. It's a good.
So you do have,
I'll
or
have
you
to.
did have loss of revenue, or you do?
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
know if I have loss of
underinsured.
revenue. I have
Sorry.
underinsured motor. Oh yeah, my policy has that. Yeah.
You do have underinsured. So you might really want to look into that, because I'm pretty sure that I did claim loss of revenue and diminished value on an underinsured policy.
Huh. I'll have to look at that. So diminished value I couldn't, but the underinsured I may be able to
So
for
yeah,
loss of revenue.
I'll just take
Commercial
10%,
power.
10 to 20% of whatever you collect. I'll take as a managerial fee if you'd like. Yeah,
Okay.
just
Yeah, I'll get that right
send it
over to
over.
you. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, but yeah, look into that for sure. There was also a company that I used several times. If anybody's ever in an accident, that I've recommended numerous times. It's called Autoloss.com, and I know her name, and I haven't dealt with them for 5+ years, or 4.5, 5 years, but I know her name, Monica, because I dealt with her that much, and she did reports for us for diminished value. I believe they do loss of revenue too. Um, and it's all a negotiation. Like I said, you've literally got to show, this is how much revenue this truck made, over the last 6 months. This is breaking it down. This is how much it makes per day on average. This is how much. They're going to want to see, well, how many tickets, or how many dumpsters did you actually turn away? No, I can't calculate that, because if I turned away a customer, I don't have any record of that revenue, right? There's no way. So you can do average revenue. You can do, obviously, your tax return, all that stuff. Um, but there's all kinds of different ways that you can go at it. But it's 100% negotiation. Always start
Yeah,
high
and
too.
that's yeah, and the insurance companies aren't there, to pay us out. We're going to do everything they can not to.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Aid, I believe he's talking
Yeah,
to you. Are you trying to repair your truck or buy it back? I don't think you want it back, do you?
no, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take the bet off it.
You are
I
getting it back.
and I'm going to. Well, I haven't taken it back yet. I haven't settled with them, but part of it will be that I will take it back and take the bet off
Okay.
and use it. But the truck's irreparable. Yeah, there's
Right.
no repairing that baby.
Yeah, they'll probably what? I mean, I would imagine $500 or I mean, it shouldn't be much. $1,000 to
Yeah, it's usually $500. And actually, when I'm looking at it, that toolbox right there, I want to put on my other truck. So,
there you
but
go.
but yeah, but it's usually a $500 buyback.
Omar, what's up, man? Daniel the Dumpsy Helper says howdy, howdy, howdy. I believe Daniel has a GMC or a Chevy just like this, a 6500. I
Oh,
believe,
really?
right, Daniel? I need to take this a lot more serious about a backup option. My competitors are a little rough on throwing a save. Um, until they need it. You know what I'm saying? Until they need help. Really depends on how big your competitors are, but until they need help, um, you just it doesn't hurt to create a network and talk to people and just make friends. We should not, and I've said it 100 times before, and I'll say it 100 times again. We should not be in direct competition. We are in direct competition with our local guys, but I don't see my local guys as my competition. I see the big boys. I see Waste Management. I see all those big boys as my competition. Those are the guys that I want to take, business from. So
Yeah. And think of it too as, that having that network is one part of it. But I think what we were talking about earlier is think of options. Like, Josh, if I recall recently, you went and bought a trailer that you needed to run some 30 yards.
yep,
That's thinking those options as well. What will it take to get something? And as entrepreneurs, we have to use our warrior mentality to go pull some magic and get a fix in 2 days, one way or another. I had a truck that, God knows, that thing leaked out of every. I was spending $100 a week on fluids before I got everything fixed.
sure,
I never saw anything so much fluid, except for. But again, it worked for me. Buying a short term fix. If you're going to lose that much money while you're negotiating with a company or getting another truck, a trailer can be a great fix.
right, 100%,
Short term, it's going to run forever, but do it.
right. Yeah, and that's something I didn't even have a backup until I needed a backup, which is just dumb. Should always try to work on getting the backup, but sometimes it's just hard. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't. It's just money, and then you need local friends, and that's where you need friends. You know what I'm saying? Where you can call on. Fortunately,
Mm-hmm.
I had both, but I couldn't afford some of my friends. They're too expensive, so I had to go buy a trailer.
Yeah,
E
yeah.
Money, what's up, man?
Well,
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
no, I'm not trying to read some of that.
Oh, okay. I gotta make this bigger. Elite, what's up, man? I had the same thing with an underinsured person several years ago. I pay for the under and uninsured now. Yeah, yeah. You got to. You have to. Especially here in Texas. I'm sure most states too, but man, it seems like half the people around here rolling around without insurance. My daughter got hit with it by a guy. My middle daughter, she got hit by a guy who had no insurance, and they let him drive off. I'm like, what the heck? Like, tow his truck. You know what I'm saying? And at least give him a citation. And he just got to
Yeah,
drive home. How is that even possible?
yeah. It's insanity. I'll say that.
Alan says, I already have an HD truck and dump trailer for junk removal. Do you think it's worth getting a roll off trailer and bins to test the market or save money and go straight to hook lift, something like a 550? I'll let you answer that, David. What do you think?
Um, I don't know enough about the business. I guess the way I'd evaluate it is say, uh, it sounds like you have some good equipment, right? I see a HE truck, a dump trailer. I mean, I think if anything, it could expand what you're doing. If I could pull off a F550 and another trailer, or and get some dumpsters, I think that just expands your ability to be operating at, in a, how do I say it, a passive way, right? You can put more things on site. And again, that's the nature of this business. We don't want to be operating dumpsters. We want to be putting a dumpster somewhere where my rental income is coming, and bring it back and resell my same asset for the next 15 years. So if you can pull that off, I would do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a roll off trailer. People want to go straight to hooks. I felt like I needed to take the slow, methodical way to test my market, to test my patience with the business, to test my wherewithal, I guess, to see how much I could grow myself. Um, you know, I just never suggest for people to go straight into a big truck or a big hook lift or something crazy expensive without actually having the work already. So if you already have a heavy duty truck and you're used to pulling a trailer, you got a dump trailer. There's nothing wrong with but get the right trailer, the kind of trailer that you can scale with, not the kind of trailer that locks you into a certain style or a certain
Like
proprietary.
rail width.
Correct.
Yeah, I can't agree with you enough on that one right there, Josh. Whatever you guys do, make sure, again, when you're locked into a certain, you know, pattern, that it's not scalable, or you're at the mercy of somebody else, or all custom made stuff. Everything I buy is, standard rail, and not, Texas Pride standard rail, but the one that they've been making dumpsters, the same rail for whatever, 100 years,
Hmm.
since Ben Franklin, right? So, but that gives me a lot of options because I can call somebody else, their truck's going to fit. All my dumpsters are cable and hook, except for the one in that picture. So, because I know in the future I will probably get a hook truck. The truck I'm using now is a reading system. It's not horrible. I mean, it works fast. It can pick up, just about anything.
Right.
Um, I've had no issues with it, but hook truck is definitely easier. But if you're going to experiment, don't I think to Josh's point, I think it's a really good one. Is don't go spend $100,000 on the truck if you don't know the business, don't know what you need. I know with what I've bought now and what I've seen in the industry, I would definitely not have been happy with the original really expensive truck I was going to buy. It would not have met my needs at all of what I'm going to be doing in the next 6 months. But I would have been strapped to that thing.
Yep. Yep. 100%. 100%. Rhino says, ADE, I personally have reached out to local companies, introduced myself, explained to them that I'm always looking to network and send them work when I can, when I can't cover it. Good icebreaker. So Rhino needs to stop reaching out to local companies. Just send me all his extra work. That's all. That's all we got. That's all we need. He's really stingy with his work. He's giving me some, but I still want more. I want all of it. He said he likes that energy. Consider buying the truck back if totaled. Yep, there you go. And
Yeah.
I'm a little behind on comments. So yeah, Daniel says he has a Chevy 6500 2006 17-foot rails electric winch. Electric
Gotcha.
winch. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, this had a hydraulic winch on it, which was good. But again, I think they were only 14-foot rails. I wish I knew exactly what it was.
I think Daniel extended his rails too. I believe.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Nice. They're great trucks. My brother has an old business partner. He's been running them for years and years with a huge towing business, and they've got a million miles on some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, they're tanks. They're built like
Yeah.
tanks. I mean, they're just um
Yeah, they're definitely not for just home use. And that thing had the same suspension as a Sherman tank.
right. Right. Well,
Get my fillings released every 6 months.
yep. David, any last words of wisdom? Put you on the spot.
No, just I think that the key to this business is, one, you have to just hustle. Two, if stuff like this happens, try to have a plan in place. But if you don't have one, realize you just be creative and figure out a way to keep going. Don't ever let something like this, slow you down or shut you down. And I think that's something that we forget, is we can all be creative and figure out ways to solve just about anything if we put our minds to it. And I wish everybody on the call, great luck in the future with this stuff, because it's a great industry. It's a lot of fun, and let's go get some, what.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we got one more with Daniel real quick. He did say he oh my gosh, why is it so small? I cheated from my 14-foot, added 3 feet to be able to run standard cans and not just switch and go cans. Yeah. And now he runs. So he had a switch and go system set up on his truck, and then he converted to standard rail, and then made it 3 feet longer. So his truck's kind
Yeah,
of badass, and now he's got a hook lift trailer too. So he's working his
awesome,
way. So
awesome. And I like to
they
work with trailers too. Those are cool.
Yeah, yeah. David, I appreciate you being here, man. I'm gonna head out kind of early today. I've had a long day. I'm gonna go have some dinner, man. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. I appreciate you reaching out to me and telling me your story and being open and honest and just kind of telling us, reminding us what we kind of do know and some things that we would never even thought of without this video.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great meeting you in person, and good luck, everybody.
All right.
Have a
Don't
good one.
forget to like, subscribe, smash the notification bell, and we'll see you guys on the next one. David, appreciate it, man.
Take care.